Top 10 Shocking Porn Star Discoveries. Number 10. 1922 High Relief Peace Dollar. No one can tell what you'll win in a poker game. A man came into a shop approaching $20,000 for an extravagant coin he had won in a poker game. A coin master distinguished the coin as a genuine 1922 High Relief Peace Dollar, which, as indicated by him, is perhaps the rarest coin in American history. He, at that point, estimated the coin somewhere in the range of $50,000 to $100,000, which, in case you're educated in mathematics, you'll understand it's somewhat more than $20,000. The man in the end offered the peace dollar to Rick for $80,000, which is a little on the low side, obviously, but come on, we wouldn't whine about winning $80,000. Number 9. Jimi Hendrix's guitar. The porn stars love themselves a few guitars, and right now, hit upon a major one. A man came in insisting that he had Jimi Hendrix's 1963 Fender Stratocaster, a guitar that Hendrix played in the studio. They immediately found its authenticity through the sequential number, and the appraiser esteemed the guitar at an incredible $1 million. Currently, that is one costly guitar. Rick offered the proprietor $450,000 before working up an ideal $6,000. Be that as it may, the proprietor wasn't willing to leave behind anything short of a cool million, and Rick missed out on a bit of rock history. Number 8. The 1932 Lincoln Convertible V12. No doubt the cast of porn stars adores a few guitars, yet they really love vehicles as well. A man known as Uncle Phil offered the men of the pawn shop a 1932 Lincoln Convertible V12, an extravagant vehicle that incorporated the Lincoln L-Head V12 motor. During the 1930s, it could create up to a whopping 150 horsepower, and it contended with the Cadillac V12 in that era. To think this creation was fabricated during the Great Depression. It's an extravagant vehicle. Rick guessed that the car could be priced at $170,000, given that it's in mint condition. However, the vehicle had a couple of minor blemishes, so Rick delegated the price and got it for $95,000. Number 7. The Book of Mormon. Here a fella strolls into a shop with a bit of American history, the Book of Mormon. The book was first distributed by Joseph Smith in 1830, and Adams' 5th version duplicate was imprinted in 1842. As indicated by the client, it was additionally the last version distributed in Joseph Smith's lifetime, as he passed away in June of 1844. As Rick stated, it's a significant, strict original copy, yet one of the most important bits of American writing. The appraiser, Rebecca Romney of Barman Rare Books, esteemed the book at $40,000, making it the most significant book that has been evaluated by Rebecca. Adam left with $24,000, but not as much as what he was initially inquiring. Number 6. George Washington's suit. Season 15 saw perhaps the best thing in porn star history, a suit worn by none other than the first president of the United States, George Washington. The silk suit is from the mid-18th century and was initially pink in shading before time did its thing and cleaned out all the colour. At that point, pink was an elegant shading that implied achievement and elegance. As you can envision, a suit worn by George Washington would bring a touch of cash, and the vendor was asking for $3 million. That was, of course, excessively expensive for Rick, who offered $2 million instead, but in the end the vendor backed out. Possibly now, the merchant could sell or give the suit to an exposition hall, where it ought to have been all along. Number 5. The 1961 Fender Stratocaster. You may not know the name Vic Flick, however the man has been well known in the music industry. Flick was a studio performer from the late 50s to the mid 80s who played with beloved singers from Nancy Sinatra to Tom Jones. His most well-known attribute to music is that he played the acclaimed guitar riff on the first James Bond movie, Dr. No. In summary, you know his work. Right now, the dealer was selling his 1961 Fender Stratocaster, which was valued at $70,000. As per the appraiser, that particular guitar can be heard on a plethora of well-known tunes from the 60s and 70s, maybe more than we might even suspect. Vic was glad to leave with $55,000, saying he and his significant other would jump out for a brew or two to celebrate. Number 4. The O.J. Simpson Bronco. The picture of the white Ford Bronco turned into a bit of an infamous event on the evening of June 17, 1994, when Simpson and Al Cowlings went into a low-speed pursuit with the police after a warrant was given for O.J.'s arrest. Almost 25 years after that incident, that exact same Bronco ended up on Pawn Stars. The merchant, who was O.J. Simpson's operator at the time, expresses that he had recently turned down a deal for $500,000 and instead approached Rick for $1.3 million. On the other hand, Rick thought purchasing the Bronco was an over-the-top bet and declined, telling the dealer that he should take the SUV to an auction. Number 3. The Beatles' original contract. With regards to the most significant parts of music history, the Beatles' unique agreement is pretty high on the rundown. The merchant put it pleasantly when he called it the Holy Grail of awesome. The agreement was between the Beatles and their administrator Brian Epstein, and it was implied that Epstein would get 25% of all the Beatles' income. Epstein made a significant impact on the Beatles' picture and ubiquity, even being given the title of the fifth Beatle before he kicked the bucket from an unfortunate resting pill overdose in 1967. In spite of the dealer requesting $1 million, it was expertly treasured at $500,000. Rick took the opportunity and offered just $350,000, but in the end, the merchant left the shop. Number 2. JFK's humidor. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, in addition to other things, was somewhat of a stogie enthusiast, and Rick was fortunate enough to encounter his own stogie box. Remembered for the bundle was simply the humidor with 8 exclusively wrapped stogies. As per the official archive composed by JFK's secretary, the humidor was given to the president as a birthday present on May 29, 1962, only 18 months before his assassination. The merchant was requesting a moderately pitiful $95,000, however, left with just $60,000. We're not specialists or anything, however, that appears to be a tiny sum for such an individual bit of presidential history. Before we take a gander at the most stunning discovery, here are a couple of decent mentions. The 2014 Hertz Penske GT Mustang, Wreck Treasure, the 2001 Super Bowl ring, the 1915 Panama Pacific octagonal gold coin, and the White Eagle medallion. Number 1. 3,000 ounces of silver. Rarely does 3,000 ounces of silver get through your entryway. However, make roughage while the sun sparkles, isn't that so? Jeff, the proprietor of the silver, wheeled 3,372 ounces of silver into the shop, making the old man, for all intents and purposes, jump from his work area so that he could investigate the wonderful find. Remembered for the assortment were sacks of dimes, quarters, various silver bars, and a 75-pound block of unadulterated silver. Whilst doing some cerebral, painstaking math, Rick found out that the heap was worth $111,000, which Jeff was glad to acknowledge. Turns out silver is an entirely wise venture.